What up and what's good, everybody? Kevin Dee TV back in full effect. This next movie I'm breaking down, to me, is another 90s classic. And yes, I know it's another Sylvester Stallone movie, yes, I know. But the movie is Cliffhanger, starring him, John Lithgow, Michael Rooker, Janine Turner, Rex Linn, and Paul Winfield. Story starts out as Gabe Walker is attempting to climb a mountain to rescue his friend Hal and his girlfriend Sarah, along with their co-workers Jesse and Frank. They get on the other side of the mountain. Gabe, climbs up to Hal and Sarah all safely, and they, go with the process of trying to get them transferred to the helicopter so everybody could be safe. They get everything set up, and Hal, knowing the mountain climber that he is, he knows what he's doing, so he gets set up and he goes and he gets his way to the helicopter. And Gabe is hooking Sarah up, and with her being inexperienced, she didn't really know what to do, and plus she was afraid of heights. Now that goes back to the question of why he put her up there anyway, because if a woman don't know how to climb and I was dating her, I'd make sure she wouldn't be in that kind of dangerous predicament. But anyway, as she was strolling back to get to the helicopter, her harness breaks, and she's hanging for dear life. And Hal and Gabe and Jesse, they're debating on whether or not they should keep it from swinging, or should somebody go out there and pretty much, save her. And Gabe was like, that cluck, that shit's not gonna hold. Somebody's gotta go out there. And Jesse agreed. She was like, Gabe, you have to go after her. And Hal was like, no, don't do it. So he goes out there, and if you look at it, she was falling anyway. So she wouldn't have lasted long on that, hanging from where she was hanging, because she was wearing gloves and it was so slippery she couldn't even hang on if she tried. But Gabe goes out there, and as she was falling, he goes to grab for her hand. He tries to pull her up but can't. He's trying to insist to her that she's not going to die. But unfortunately she does. She dies and she falls to her death. And as a result of that, Gabe went into a deep depression. Him and Hal's relationship as best friends were never the same after that, and it pretty much took a turn for the worse for everybody. And Gabe ended up disappearing for like almost a year, and he comes back into town, wanting Jesse to come with him back to Denver, because he didn't want to stay around no more, because he was still grieving over the death of Sarah. And she was pretty much telling him, we let it go, and you need to as well. Cut the crap, and and stop holding all the guilt. And she was, when he asked to come with him, she was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. This is my home. Well, at first it was our home, and now it's my home. So he was like, all right, well, you think it's all right if I go get the rest of my stuff? She was like, you know where everything is, and drove off to work. Now, while all that is going on, Agent Wright, played by Paul Winfield, is addressing Agent Travers, as Travers is getting ready to, get ready for the suitcases to be transported, onto the plane or whatnot. And while he's doing all that, Agent Wright tells Agent Travers that, hey, I got somebody else here, Agent Matheson. Would you mind taking them along for the ride? Travers was like, yeah, it's all good. We got, plenty of room, and he was briefing on him about everything that's going on. And the funny part about it was that the $100 million that were in those 3 suitcases was pretty much $1,000 bills. They couldn't be able, like if an average person tried to steal it, they wouldn't really be able to do anything with it, due to the fact that, $1,000 bills are not in, today's circulation. They're only in circulation for international purposes, pretty much like the IMF or the Federal Reserve or the World Bank. It's pretty much like those kind of 3 institutions that would deal like with $1,000 bills. If somebody like us tried to steal it, it would be a waste of time. But they set everything up and get on the plane, and everything is fine. And Travers and Matheson is walking back and forth through the plane, making sure that everything is secure. And one of the other agents was asking Matheson, oh, you got a new position, huh? Over at the office that they were going to. He was like, yep, just coming up in the world and stuff. And while Matheson, was, looking out the window, he noticed that there was another plane in proximity to where they were at. But at first it was a little too far away, so he didn't think too much of it. But then he saw it getting closer, and then he let it be known. And one of them yelled to Travis like, "Hey, just stay calm, and we'll take care of the situation as best we can, And Matheson was like, "Fuck that, get your weapons, and Travis was trying to tell him, "Hey, calm down. We got this under control." And Matheson, he wasn't just there to be transferred, to another office so he can have a higher position. Matheson was there for the simple fact of making sure that none of the other agents was involved in trying to steal, the money. He kind of figured it out right away, but he didn't know who it was. And at first they thought he was just going crazy, and Travis pointed his gun at him. But then instead of just shooting Matheson, he shoots the other two agents that he was with. They didn't know what was going on. He shoots them in the head and the chest and makes sure that they're dead. And he only shoots Matheson a few times, not knowing that he wasn't dead. So while the shooting was going on out there, you hear one of the pilots ask, "What's going on back there?" And then the other one blew his head off because, the other one was involved. So they, get suited up and get their air masks on so they don't, suffocate up there in the high, in the high winds up there. So, they're getting ready to transport the cargo, and you see Crystal and Eric Quaylen and everybody else, on the plane getting ready, to make the transfer. Matheson is still down, and Travers is, he opened the back of the plane to make sure everything is secured and make sure that the briefcases were, ready for transfer. And he told the other pilot, like, "Yo, you just make sure you stick to the plan and you'll be a rich man," And instead of transferring the money first, Travers goes, he transfers himself to the plane first. And, and Eric Quaylen asks him, "Well, why don't you bring the money first?" And he was like, "Well, I didn't think it would wait for me if I sent it first," which I agree, because, with $100 million, as soon as he would have gave it to them, he could have just been like, "All right, cut them two off and let them blow up in the plane and just keep it moving." So I agree with Travers on that one. But while the other pilot was getting ready to get the briefcases transferred, Matheson is obviously still alive. And while the pilot was getting ready to transfer the briefcases, Matheson gets up with his Uzi and shoots the pilot out of the plane. And they didn't know what was going on. And he was like, "Is anybody up there that you leave?" He was like, "No." And little did Travers know that, yes, Matheson was still alive. And while the briefcases were being transferred, he took out his Uzi and then he started shooting at the plane, and he hit the hydraulics tank, which, caused them, to land. They had to land because, they was losing hydraulics. And while all that's going on, and Matheson is still shooting, and then one of Quaylen's guys get hurt, and instead of, catering to his needs, they threw him out of the plane, and, they ended up crashing and, pretty much stranded on the mountain now. And Quaylen and everybody's mad at Travers because of how the plan pretty much failed, and now they're stuck on a mountain. And not only that, the briefcases are on three separate areas, and now they need to find them. So what do? They, find a frequency to Rocky Mountain Rescue, and they ask if they can have somebody to come transport them. Now, their original plan was to get their hands on a helicopter so they can be able to fly around to look for the money, as opposed to, having to walk around looking for it. So, Jesse tells Hal, what's going on, and Hal decides to go out on his own. So when he goes out on his own, she chooses to drive back to the house where Gabe is still getting his stuff. And she's pretty much telling him that, "Hey, we got an emergency call. Some people are stranded on a mountain, and Hal went up there by himself, and I think you should go up there to help him." He was like, "Jesse, I'm the last person he want to see, especially after what happened." She was like, "You know what, Gabe? Cut the crap, okay? You and Hal are best friends. I know what happened, it was a tragedy, but he still needs you to be up there with him." And he's like, "Jesse, I didn't come back here for that. I came back for you, And he was like, "If you don't want to come with me, that's fine, but I'm not going back up there, But eventually, he did agree to it, and he was already up there at the top by the time Hal got up there. And this is where they had their chance to air things out, because they never really talked about it after it happened. So, you know, Hal gets up there, he sees him sitting up there already. He's like, what the hell are you doing up here, man? Oh, he was like, you know, Jesse, you know, was thinking that you needed some help, so she filled me in. Well, he was like, oh, she did she? Well, my advice to you is you get the hell out of here and go back to that hole you've been hiding in. And then he was like, once this shit is over with, I'm done, Hal. He was like, no, you done now. And then he was like, look, Hal, I know how you feel about me, all right? He was like, you don't know anything. You did it your way, and she died, you know? And he kept telling him, like, there wasn't time for anything else, man. And he was like, well, I guess we'll never know, won't we? You know? He was like, Hal, there's a bad time for everybody, all right? He's like, what the hell do you know about bad times, man? You didn't love her, and you didn't have to explain to her family. And he was like, well, you didn't have to look into her eyes when she was falling. Now drop it. And he was like, nobody. It was you who dropped it. You know? And Gabe was like, yo, if you want to do it, do it. He was this close to throwing him off the cliff. And he was like, nah, you live with the misery. And they just kept it moving, you know? And then Quaylen and them was, you know, looking for the, you know, rescuers or whatnot. And they saw how them two was climbing up the mountain. He was like, well, greet them at the top, you know? And they came and they asked him what was going on. And pretty much was telling them, hey, you know, where's the chopper? And Hal was pretty much explaining to Quaylen and them, hey, you can't fly in this weather. He was like, either are you a chopper pilot? He was like, no. You know, and then Travers asked them what were their names. And Hal answered Tucker and Walker. And Travers was like, well, Tucker and Walker were missing 3 bags. And Gabe asked what's in them. And Travers answered, none of your fucking business. And then, you know, Quaylen answered, you know, shoes, socks, $100 million, the usual stuff, you know. So Quaylen pretty much asked them to, do they recognize the locations of where the suitcases had dropped? And he told them, like, you know, if you don't know, then you're useless. Useless items are usually discarded, which I believe. If it don't work, get rid of it. That's how I take it. You know, if you ain't got no use for work, then get the hell out of the way. So they told him, yeah, you know, we know where the locations are. And they was like, well, let's get moving. Travis had a tracking device for the 3 briefcases just in case they got lost or somebody eventually tried to steal it. So, you know, they used to find the first one, which was above their heads, and, you know, and they used Gabe, you know, as they had him climb up there in the mountain to get the first briefcase. And, you know, while that's going on, you hear Jesse trying to call in, you know, to get the Hal to figure out what's going on, you know. And then they had Hal tie a rope to Gabe's ankle just in case he would try to get away or something. You know, and at the same time, they took his jacket and all his tools, which I thought was fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, yo, you know, like, you know, and just like Hal was saying, he could freeze to death, you know, for real. And that's when, you know, Quaylen was like, yo, you got your own problems, Hal. Word up. You know what I'm saying? So Gabe is climbing up there the best way he can manually. He finds it, and then, you know, he was looking at it and shit. He, you know, he hit it to open it, and he saw them $1,000 bills. He's like, whoa, you know. And then you hear Quaylen say, hey, I don't think we need 2 people. Retire him when he comes down. And, you know, and Hal was like, they're gonna kill you. And, you know, and then as soon as he was like, you know, Quaylen was like, pull a rope, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, they was trying to go ahead and try to shoot him down and, you know, and trying to pull the rope at the same time. But Gabe had one of his pieces of equipment that he was able to use to be able to, you know, get himself free from that. And then while one of Quaylen's goonies was trying to shoot at him using small grenade or rocket launchers, I don't know what it was, but obviously it triggered an avalanche. And, you know, and Gabe threw the briefcase, you know, and lost the money. And while one of Quaylen's dudes ended up getting caught in it, and you see him falling along with all the money. And you hear Quaylen tell Tucker, yo, your friend has just had the most expensive funeral in history. Now it's only you. You know, not knowing that Gabe survived that. So Jesse was like, I don't know what's going on, but, you know, we got to figure out something. So she tries to call in again. And this time Quaylen's telling Hal, like, yo, no codes, no tricks. You haven't found us. It was a fake call. So he tells her that. And, you know, Jesse's like, nah, that don't make no sense. So she asks Frank, you know, can he be able to take her, you know, up to the area where I guess they would bring tourists to, where they had, you know, old artifacts and, you know, and old, you know, mountain climbing equipment and things of that nature. So she was like, I'll go there. The winds are never bad over there. I can go over there and try to figure out what happened and probably run into how. And Frank was like, nah, Jesse, that's a bad idea, And Frank was, making, these paintings, that were kind of weird. And she told him, like, yo, if you take me, I'll buy one of your paintings. So he agreed to it and took her, and she got there. And while she got there, Gabe was, freezing to death damn near, getting to the top because he was going to that same area. They bump into each other and she's like, Gabe, what's going on? She was like, they got Hal. And she was like, the phony call. She was like, he was like, before they crashed, they lost cases of money. They're using Hal to find him. And when they do, he's dead. We got to get to the next one before they do. So that's pretty much what they did. They got to the next case and, he pretty much took all the money, put it in a bag, and they bounced. So by the time Travis and Quaylen and all of them got there, all they saw was a snowman and an empty briefcase with $1,000 bill in it talking about want a trade. And, Travis got mad. He's like, son of a bitch is still alive. Damn it. Yeah, I like Quaylen when he was like, I'm beginning to dislike this Mr. Walker. He cannot be far. Move, And Jesse and him is running and shit, trying to, get away from them and all that. And one guy with an automatic, was shooting at them and he told her to run off. And, him and that one guy with the automatic was fighting. He had night vision. He put a flare in his face and his eyes to blind him. And they going down a slope. The one guy dies while Gabe survives. And, him and Jesse pretty much get out of the way for the night, go chill in the cave, burning all the money so they can stay warm, And the next day they get up, they going for the third case. But while all of that is going on, Hal is making them go a longer way so they can be able to, buy time. And, while they was going through the cave, Quaylen told, Kenneth, played by Leon, and a few other of his goons, like, yo, you stand over there and stand over there. If you happen to run into him, he's like, don't kill him until you get the money first. And ironically, when Kenneth was looking for him, he was climbing up the cave. And then when he came out the hole, he didn't know. And then he was like, Walker, small world, ain't it? He was like, I got a price on your head and the price is $30 million. With it, where is it? It's like, it's gone. He was like, what the fuck you talking about? He's like, I burned it. You know what I'm saying? He was like, I did. Never could save enough of it. He was like, not even a dumb mountain boy like you would burn $30 million. And, it was just messed up how, they was doing. Like, there was these two kids that was just going to, skydive and mountain climb and do all that stuff they was doing. And then they run into them and how it's like, they try to play kosher about it at first, but then, they shot them two boys, you know what I'm saying? One of them got shot dead. The other one got away, but he was mortally wounded, And I like that part where Hal was, telling Quaylen, like, you a murdering motherfucker. And then he said, kill a few people, they call you a murderer. Kill 1 million, and then you're a conqueror. When I heard that line, I'm like, you know what? There's some truth to that. And after, Gabe fights Kenneth and, pretty much kills him, Frank is letting them know that they found one of the boys that he jumped and almost got mauled by a pack of wolves. So he's pretty much telling them he took him to the nearest medical facility and how he's in critical condition, but they couldn't get a hold of the walkie-talkie. And while that's happening, Quaylen and Crystal are using C4 to blow up the mountain so he can pretty much blow it up over his head. And so Hal, he takes one of the walkie-talkies and telling them like, yo, y'all need to get the hell out of there. In 3 minutes, there's a bomb. Get your ass out of there. So they did. They took the old rope that they had at that house, and they pretty much was trying to swing from one side of the mountain to the other so they can, get away from the bomb. But, and then finally, Frank is, flying around trying to figure out what's going on, and he sees somebody laying there with a red flare, in the air. And, he comes and tries to help the woman, and then she takes the gun from him, and he don't know what's going on. And while that's going on, you got Quaylen and Travis got Hal hostage with a gun to his face. And, he's screaming for Frank because he already know what they're going to do to him, And and then, while he was about to do it, they let him go. And he was running towards Frank like, Frank, no, Frank, And the next thing you know, the one guy, Delmar, he had another automatic. He ended up shooting Frank right in front of him as he was running. And I thought that was fucked up, you know what I'm saying? And because Frank, you know what I'm saying, he was a cool guy, you know what I'm saying? He didn't hurt no bother nobody. And that's exactly what he told him after he passed away in his arms, and he took a knife that he had, and he was like, "This man never hurt anybody." It's like touching. Chris, go get the chopper, let's go. For real. You know what I'm saying? And afterwards, you see Quaylen and Travis kind of going at it because, you know what I mean, they're all frustrated now about how 2 cases is now lost and now they only got 1 left to go find. So they also find out with the helicopter that Frank had, it didn't have enough fuel for them to look around for the last case. They just had enough just to get down on the ground and get the hell out of Dodge. That's pretty much what she was saying. So, you know, Quaylen was like, "Yo, give me the frequency monitor." And he was like, "What you want it for?" You know, he was like, "You don't know the code," and da-da-da-da-da. So he slid it to him anyway. So then Quaylen asks him for the code. He asks it for him twice. Then Travis points his gun. And he's like, "Fuck that, nigga. You ain't gonna be, fuck that. You ain't gonna be bossing me around no more." And, you know, and here's Quaylen. He's like, "Look at Agent Travis now, huh? I guess he is running the show after all." He's like, "Now what's the plan, Travis? Use the chopper to find the money, right? What a good idea." But then again, without a pilot, nobody even gets off this mountain. You know, and he's, caressing Crystal, and she don't know whether he's being erotic or whether he's being, devious. And he turned to her kind of like he was going to kiss her, talking about, "Do you know what real love is, Crystal?" She's like, "No." Like, sacrifice. And then shot her 3 times. And he was pretty much like, "Now I'm the only one that can fly us out of here. We're partners again. Now take your fucking toy, word up, and go find our money. Radio me when you get the money. I'll wait right here." And while all this is going on, throughout the movie, you see Agent Wright, flying around in his helicopter, because by this time they knew what the hell happened. They knew that the plane exploded, and they know that the money was, displaced. They didn't know where it was at, or, who had it or whatever, or how many survivors there were on the plane. So they trying to figure out everything while they in a helicopter flying through the mountains, trying to find debris from the planes, or trying to find the suitcases full of money, anything, anything that they can find, they was trying to find out there, because, out there in the Rocky Mountains, it's kind of like finding a needle in a haystack, and then, they're going to have to use plenty of gas too, just to try to look around. But, by the time Travis and Delmar is walking with, Hal, and Travis is pretty much telling Delmar, "Yo, I found the last case. We ain't gonna need him no more. But do me a favor, right? When you kill this dude, make sure it's quiet. We don't want nothing being heard within a 10-mile radius. And then he told Hal, "It's nice been working with you. And Hal knew it too, but he didn't know how he was gonna do it. At first he thought Delmar was gonna shoot him, but instead he was whooping his ass. You know what I'm saying? Talking about how he was a good soccer player and shit, kicking him in the face. That was some gruesome, that was some like brutal shit right there. As far as I'm concerned, like the way he just did it, like, and how he just kept on kicking him and damn near kicking him off the cliff, standing on his hand, acting all arrogant. Hal, with his smart ass, got that damn knife that he got from Frank when he died and stuck him in his leg and took that shotgun. "The season's over, asshole. Book." Then Travis seeing a body drop, he's like, "I said quietly. Damn." So he goes to look for the last case. And the red dots, of course, was the indicators to let you know where they were at. But unfortunately for Travis, Gabe already got to that suitcase, and he put the tracking monitor on the body of a bunny. And I thought that was funny, because he started hopping in different places. He's like, "What the fuck is going on?" And then he sees the rabbit, and he's like, "God damn it." He's like, "Fuck you, Walker." You know what I'm saying? And he just started shooting at the rabbit. But then he realized that the rabbit wasn't dead. He was like, "Ain't this a bitch?" You know what I'm saying? And then he had the, radio Quaylen talking about, "Yeah, the money's gone. Damn Walker. You know what I mean? Son of a bitch is still alive, Quaylen." He was like, "No names. This is an open line." He's like, "I don't give a shit, Eric Quaylen." Because see, the thing about Travis was he was, a treasury agent. And sometimes, those guys like normal cops, they feel like they ain't getting paid enough for the hard work they put in over the years. So sometimes they go rogue. And just like Travis, he went rogue. And, he went rogue by messing with Eric Quaylen, a guy who was internationally known and who would be able to take that kind of money and be able to do what he wants with it. So, he was getting tired of just, the normal routine of living paycheck to paycheck. And that's why in a lot of cases, cops, when they see the drug dealers on the street making 10 times of what they're making, that's why cops hate. And sometimes they'll go out of their way to get that drug dealer busted or, or much, destroyed as far as his money is concerned, because that's what it is, And that's what Travis was saying. He was like, 20 years and this is my payback to be on a motherfucking mountain with a dirt bag like you. He was like, you know what? I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? He knew it was the end of the line for him, because it was like there was no going back. And that's what Quaylen told him in at the first part of the movie after they crashed. He was like, you and I were in bed together, partners in crime. You're just gonna have to live with it from this point on. So he told Quaylen, like, yo, I'm going on my last official manhunt. I'm going after Walker. Fuck you. And he threw the monitor away and he was just on his way to get Gabe. And, and Gabe running from him and he starts shooting at him and he jumps over a small cliff where he can be able to get away. Travis finds another way, and then they start going at it. He's over a bridge. Gabe grabs him by his ankles. He falls into the thin ice, into the cold. Man, that water had been cold as hell, boy. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't even imagine. But, just when Travis was about to kill Gabe went ahead and used an instrument that he had to use for rock climbing and pretty much used it against him. And that was pretty much the end of Travis. And, Hal, saved Gabe and, and by this time, Quaylen is in the air in this helicopter, and Jesse, not knowing it wasn't Frank, she was calling for the helicopter, and he sees her, and she's like, oh, shit, no, that ain't Frank, and Quaylen just pointed his gun at her like, yeah, bitch, you know what it is, bring your ass, So afterwards, he's on the helicopter, he's, Quaylen's, radioing for Travis, and Tucker picks up the walkie-talkie and says, well, no, I don't think that you'll see anything of Mr. Travis soon. He just took a swim to Arizona. Like, Tucker. And then he was like, and then he gave him the walkie-talkie and Gabe was like, Quaylen? He was like, it's all over. He was like, Walker, like you resilient bastards, you're still alive. He was like, I want that money and I want it now. And Gabe was like, game's over, Quaylen. You lost. He was like, Like, the game is just getting interesting. You see, I'm airborne now. And he's like, I picked up a passenger that you might be interested in, which was Jesse. He asked her to talk. He's like, I said, talk, god damn it. And she was like, Gabe, I'm sorry, I thought it was Frank. He's like, you get the picture, Walker? I want that money, and you meet me from the highest point of where you are. If you don't, I'll see if this little angel of yours can fly. And he was like, yeah, Jesse, you take him up, to the highest point of where I am. I'll meet you there. Don't worry. They meet up, and he sees him at the tip of the mountain he's standing on. And Quaylen's like, yeah, you a real piece of work. And Gabe was like, yeah, you must be a real piece of shit. For real. So he tells him to let Jesse go first before, he gives him the money. He agrees to it, because he was like, throw it up or I'll kill her. He was like, you do it and the cash is gone, bruh. Like, the money, man. Like, I want you to put it down over there. So he did, and, after he put it down, he told her to run, and he was like, come on, Quaylen, I got what you want. And when he got close enough, he just threw that bag. And let that money get chopped. And Quaylen just looking at it like, oh, ain't this a bitch? And he's like, damn you, Walker, word up, son, for real. Because I'd have said that too. Then he was trying to chop him, with the helicopter, which I thought that was pretty funny. And then he had to jump, and he also hooked the helicopter to the ladder that was, and bolted on the mountain. So Quaylen couldn't go nowhere. So while, he did that, the helicopter, he was trying his best to maneuver around, but then eventually the helicopter came falling on the side of the mountain. And Gabe lost his grip and almost fell. And this is where him and Quaylen has the final fight, And Quaylen's telling him, yeah, it's just us now, you piece of shit. We had a deal, and you reneged on it. Now all we got is each other. Because, when the helicopter was looking like it was about to fall, you see him trying to stand on the mountain, trying to, avoid, falling with the helicopter. And Quaylen's like, nah, stick around, bruh, And like he told him, we had a deal. You reneged on it. Now all we got is each other. You're not afraid to die. Some G shit. You know what I mean? And then he bit him, and then, he's punching him a few times, and he told him, remember, shithead, keep your arms and legs in the vehicle at all times. You know, and that was pretty much it. He jumped on the mountain, the helicopter fell, and that was pretty much the end of Quaylen. You know, he's standing on the side of the mountain like, I'm out of here. You know, and then by the time Agent Wright shows up, him and his other two agents in the helicopter, they see them two and them three standing up there together, and he's like, yo, this is Agent Wright of, you know, so and so and so and so, identify yourselves. He's like, yeah, this is Hal Tucker with Rocky Mountain Rescue. Hey, we're glad to see you guys. He was like, if you're looking for Mr. Quaylen, he's somewhere 4,000 feet, you know, below where we're at, you know, probably, you know, frying up or some shit like that over. And then, yeah, and Agent Wright was like, okay, I'll arrange transportation for the three of you if you can sit tight for a while, you know. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. Now, to me, like I said, this was another classic movie of mine of the 90s. I don't know if y'all feel the same. If so or not, leave a comment, you know. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that bell to know when I'll be coming out with more videos, because there will be more videos coming out soon. This is Kevin D signing off. Peace out.